So what we're going to talk about today is the Siligun. Does this little 4-inch caulk gun replace this one? We'll find out right after the intro. For years, you've taken your caulking, opened up the caulk gun, inserted it in there, and had to use this tool to apply caulking or silicone to your project. The problem with this is it's very long, and if you're trying to get into a short shelf or into a very hard to get to area, this isn't going to be the tool for the job. Some engineer came up with this. It's called the Siligun, and it's only 4 inches wide. And it boasts all kinds of features. But you're going to have to decide for yourself whether or not you like this tool. Now, there's some pros and some cons to it. The pros is it's 4 inches long, so it'll fit into areas that this one will not. The other pro to it is the caulking will not spin in it. So as you're using it, sometimes with these old ones, the tube will spin, and wherever you're applying it ends up along the side of the tub wall or up onto the window. With this one, it'll stay put. Wherever you put the angle of that, your cut from the silicone, is exactly where it'll stay in reference to how you're holding the gun. That's also a con, because if you're in a situation where you need to turn the caulking so that you can hit some place that would be otherwise difficult, this isn't the gun for you. It really doesn't do well with that. Now, the way this whole thing works is there's just like the old one. The old one has this round piece of metal that slides into the bottom of the tube, and it pushes on that plastic piece, forcing the contents out of the tip of the tube. This one here has the same piece in the center that pushes it, but what it does is it sucks the tube through the gun, bringing it out the back. Now you might ask yourself, well, how does that centerpiece stay there if the tube is coming completely through it? What they've done is they've added a little knife to the back of it. It's just a little serrated edge, and as the tube is coming through it, as you're pushing it through, as the gun's pulling it through, it's actually cutting the tube, and it's putting a slice up it. All right, so they say that's a pro to using this tool, because they say as it comes out the back, when you're done using it, you can take a razor knife, trim off the tube, and have a shorter tube to store in your toolbox or wherever you keep your silicone or your caulk. I say that's an opportunity to cut yourself every single time you do that, because a razor knife is very sharp. And if you're doing this every day of the week and you're using the knife to trim it every time you use your caulk gun, that's one extra time that is a possibility of you getting hurt. If you don't trim it off, the sharp edges of the plastic where it's cut introduces the same problem. You could end up cutting yourself on the tube. So the way this works is this caulk gun has a clutch on the front of it, and you just pull this clutch, and what it does is it releases a tension ring that's on the inside. You line your caulk up at the way you want it in the gun. You push it in there as far as it'll go. You release the clutch and you pull the trigger. You see that? That was not supposed to happen, but that's all right. as you're using this gun, it's going to pull that tube through the back. Now, we're going to take this mock-up that I made. This here is supposed to represent the wall, and this piece of wood that's screwed to the bottom is to represent the trim. So when you stick your caulk gun on there and you squeeze, you put a nice little bead, and I don't have to push the trigger several times. A light pull does a pretty long run. But what you notice is it stops dripping almost immediately. Well, I say it stops dripping. It allows it to ooze out maybe 1/4 of an inch, and if you lay it too long, it might ooze more out. They say it's dripless, but it's really not dripless. So it's great for that in the sense that it allows you to get into tight areas that you may otherwise have access to. But I want to use this tube. I'm going to put a lot of it on here because I want the tube to come out the back so that I can show you. It takes a little bit to get it out. It seems to make very good use of the silicone. You can't squeeze out like a major amount all at one time. When you squeeze it full and just pull, it still only makes a continuous line that isn't larger in some spots and smaller than the other. I'll hand it to the engineers that made this, that they're not all bad. They developed something that is very unique. It does solve problems that are important to us contractors and homeowners alike. But there's some downsides to it, and I want you guys to be aware of that. So let's keep pumping this through here, and we're about a 1/2 inch now from the end of the tube. And it's still giving me a little bit of a trouble getting it out. Now, sometimes you can push the clutch and push it in further. It's not as user-friendly as they'd like it to make it out to be. All right, we're getting there. Let me waste more of this caulk here. Cover up my subscribe here, because you've already done that, right? You saw the word subscribe, and you went down and you clicked the subscribe button, so you don't need to keep reading this. It's on here for the people that didn't do it. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of this Siligun. I think it should be called Siligun because I think it's silly to own one. I'm going to pull the clutch and force it in some more. And I'm going to keep trying to get it to come out. And here it comes. It's coming out the back side now a little bit. But you see how much silicone, how much caulk came out of there, and I had to fiddle with the gun quite a bit to get to that point. The commercial for this, if you watch the commercial that the manufacturer made, it says one of the pros to it is it fits inside of any toolbox because it's only 4 inches long. So once you take the tube out, you got a 4-inch silicone gun. But what they don't tell you in the commercial, but they do tell you in the instructions, is that it can only be used with silicone and caulk. It cannot be used with adhesives. So really what that commercial means is that it'll fit into any toolbox, but you need to fit this one as well. Now you need two. I myself don't see a purpose for this. I've been in the trades for going on 30 years doing home improvements, and I've never needed this Siligun before. So let's keep doing this. Actually, I gotta hit the clutch and push it in some more. Try to get this to come out. And here we are. Let's leave it at that point. So you can see it's sticking out the back now. If you want to remove this silicone from the gun, you got to be strong and you got to be willing to yank it out because it cuts the back of the tube. And where it cuts the tube, it's serrated, so it kind of holds on to the tube. So there's two methods that you can use for taking this out. First method is you squeeze the clutch and you hit the back of it with the palm of your hand. Now that's all well and good, and it will help eject the tube. It usually doesn't launch anywhere. It usually just loosens it so you can pull it back out again. But what if the tube isn't sticking out the back? Well, then what you're going to have to do is squeeze the clutch and yank it out. And sometimes it comes out pretty smooth like it did that time, and sometimes it does not. It makes it nearly impossible to reintroduce that same tube to the Siligun unless you're at the exact same angle. So if you want to turn this a little bit to work over your head, you can't do it. Well, you probably can do it, but it's not as easy, because when this plastic gets pushed up, it has to maintain its round nature to fit around that center piece. And if you're putting it at a different angle, you have to push it through that serrated edge. So you have to pull this clutch and wiggle it and push it in. Now there's two cuts into that tube. So the other way to remove it is you pull the clutch, you hit it back there, and then work it out. Now let's say this breaks, so you lose it, or somebody else is using it, or God knows what. You're back to the old one again. Well, the old one requires that the base of this be in good shape and not be all flimsy and floppy like this, because it has to push against this metal on the back of it. So as you're squeezing it, where this is not rigid anymore, it starts buckling the plastic, it pops out of the position, and it makes a hell of a mess and a hell of a time for you. I'm going to show you the commercial from the manufacturer, so that you can see how they brag about how it fits in your toolbox. But I'm telling you, if you fit this in your toolbox, you're also going to have to fit this one. Take a look at this commercial real quick.
At the end of the day, the compact Siligun also fits easily into any toolbox.
So you see what I mean with that commercial? It's kind of misleading. Now, the other thing too is this caulk gun, and most like it, have this little clean out pin, puncture pin if you will, and it's used for after you cut the angle on your tube, that you can shove it in there and pop the aluminum foil seal that's inside of silicone tubes. You also can insert the tube into the handle, pull the trigger, and it'll cut the end of the tube off for you. That's with the old one. The new one does not have any way to open your tube. Now, I myself don't care about that so much, because I like a nice 45-degree angle on my tube so that I can lay a nice bead. I don't ever use the cutting hole in this old caulk gun, but some people do. So if it's important to you, this one doesn't have it. And as far as a clean out or a puncture pin, this one actually hurt my finger twice when I tried to use it. It's inside the handle here, and it sticks out through a hole on a slot on both sides of the stationary part of the handle. And it's spring loaded, so there's a little tab here. And as you pull it, ow, see, it got me. Didn't draw blood, but it got me. It hurts to take it out. And that's what it looks like. And it's got a little angle on it, so you can stick it in there, clean out your tube, wipe it off, and stick it back in again. But it's kind of cumbersome, because you could lose it. It's not connected like the old one is. The old one, you pop it out, it stays on there. No matter what you do to the gun, it's still going to be there. This one could easily get lost, and, well, then where are you? And then when you put it back in, it's kind of cumbersome too. It fits in there, and you got to pop it into the left side of the handle and move the other part over with your thumb and snap it back into place. So yeah, it's compact. Even has a little hook so you can hang it up, maybe on your belt or something when you're climbing. I think it's personally a waste of money. I think it's a great engineering feat. Whoever invented it created something that is genuinely unique and interesting. But I just don't think it has the quality and resources that a contractor would need. And even a homeowner, if you have one of these, you're still going to need one of these old ones because it's just not good enough. I guess it's a good conversation piece if you having guests over and you want to show them some kind of new tool that you bought. Like my neighbor next door, his name's Doug. Nice guy. He likes seeing new tools. He likes seeing some of the things that I come across and some of the work that I do. He watches the YouTube channel as well. So a shout out to you, Doug, if you're watching. He's the kind of guy that would keep this in the back of his mind, and when somebody had an issue and needed to solve something, he'd say, hey, you know, my neighbor Bob showed me this new Siligun. You might want that, but I wouldn't even recommend this. As far as I'm concerned, that's total garbage. It doesn't belong in a toolbox. It doesn't belong in a service van. I hope this helped you make your decision if you're thinking about buying a silly gun or a stupid gun or whatever you want to call it. This thing's $6 and it's simple and it works better than the $20 or $29 Siligun. It's a waste of your money, it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of space in your toolbox. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, subscribe if you like videos like this. We have a new video every single week, sometimes 2 a week, but most of the time we release one every Sunday. We show actual work. My daughter Kitana works with me full-time. She's on every job that I'm on. She's not always on the videos because sometimes she's doing something else while I'm doing a different job. Like I might be doing drywall repair, she might be installing a ceiling fan or doing some masonry work, replacing a sidewalk piece or something. And I don't have the resources to do cameras at both locations. She's not skilled enough to do the camera work as well as the job. So while she's training, while she's learning, she's my apprentice. She's working hard at learning the skills necessary to be a home improvement contractor, and she's already done very well. She's a hell of a girl, and she does a really good job. So you'll see her in the videos. Maybe you're a subscriber that's been around for a while. You've probably already seen her doing work, but if not, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you next time.